Good evening. The News Gang is here for the second show of the decade, and tonight the bridges are still burning and all roads are leading to Mombasa. Who is where? Revisiting the Uhuru Maraga quarrel, who's the better judge on the war on corruption? Plus, a degree of madness at the University of Nairobi, and it's all about professors. We'll also have the kicker, the memo, the take, the punchline, and of course, the angle. Ladies and gentlemen, where do we even begin? This is an interesting week, but I guess we can start from the judiciary, isn't it? That is the latest quarrel in town. We don't seem to run out of quarrels in this country.
Huh? Another day, another quarrel.
Yes, and the quarrel this time is really not new. It's about corruption. It is about budget cuts. Shall we listen to the Chief Justice today talking about corruption?
I am one person, Your Excellency, who respects authority. I respect authority. I would be the last person to stand and appear like Nakusomea. I would be the last person to stand and even try to talk to the Deputy President or the Right Honorable Prime Minister. Why do I say so, Your Excellency? Mimi silika yako. Mimi silika yao wengine. You play from a different league.
Courts are the same ones. When we propose certain tax measures, you are the first ones to say injunction. Hiyo isikuja. Sasa pesa hii itatoka wapi? Alafu the same mouth nataka pesa. Sasa itatoka wapi jameni? Wewe umefunga, alafu unasema unataka. We all want to fly first class. Lakini itachukua muda. Pesa ni ile hiyo tu, hakuna ingine. Haizalishwi kwa miti.
Yeah. Wow. What is this about, Francis?
Well, same old quarrel that happened last year and has been happening separately. You've had CJ Maraga say, I respect authority. Mimi ndio mtu wa mwisho kukusomea. Well, of course, what he's saying is in reference to what he did not so long ago in that press conference at the the Supreme Court building, where he said very many things about the attempts to kick him out of office, the budget cuts, the frustrations, the ifmis maneno, all those things. And it sounded like alikuwa anamsomea. That's why today he's making it very categorical that mimi sikusomei. Mimi, I respect authority. Mimi, si wa rika yako. I may be older than you, but you play in a different league because you're the president. So interestingly, the pertinent issues that CJ Maraga is raising are about the judicial process and the budgets that the judiciary is getting. Very fundamental issues. But you see, when he raised those issues in the last press conferences, what came out? Anataka Mercedes, anapiga kelele, and so on and so forth. That's why probably today he wanted to make it clear that mimi sikusomei, but I'm asking for pertinent issues.
But where do you draw the line? Yes, Lilinas, as you come in, because the president is saying, oh, umefunga huku alafu huku unauliza. What is really what is this about?
Joe, let me first make an assumption that this is a panel of Kenyans. None of us is Canadian.
Absolutely.
And let's look at the body language there. There's something Kenyan about what the Chief Justice Maraga was doing there. And I want to give an illustration of, it's often said when a Kenyan tells you, my friend, and yet they're quarreling you, my friend. I mean, it's not real. What we saw today is a restrained Maraga, who is trying to very respectfully, ile sina ubaya, but I'm pleading with you.
Get my point.
Get my point. Listen to me. Because Maraga's frustrations are well known to the public. We all remember not too long ago he had a press conference, I think it was in November.
Yes.
A lone press conference where he stood in on the steps of the Supreme Court and said and explained what the judiciary was going through. And here he was today before President Uhuru Kenyatta, the head of the executive, explaining to him again through the release of the report, the State of Judiciary and Administration of Justice report, that the situation is very, very dire. He gave an example of a court in Kitale, and I think our teams managed to get what that looks like, where actually it's not a joke, it's the reality of an overstretched judiciary, a judiciary that doesn't have resources. There is no room for courts to sit. Judges and magistrates are using their reception areas as courtrooms. So Maraga was a frustrated person even today, but he made it and verbalized it that he really wished to be very respectful about it. Listen to me, Mr. President. That's
I think, Joe, speaking about the respect and the tone of the CJ's speech today, I don't know, that could have been the reason why when the President stood up to speak, he actually omitted some parts of his speech, saying, maybe he expected the CJ to be a bit more combative. I don't know that. But there were some bits of the speech that the President skipped. He did not talk about. And picking on what you said, Linus, about the fact that, yes, kuna frustrations, anasema kuna mahakama ambazo ziko katika hali mbaya. He gave an example of Kitale. It wasn't the only one. He talked about Meru, he talked about Eldoret, he talked about Kisii. In fact, he was saying the instances where hata wananchi hawana mahali pa kusikizia kesi, they have to listen to it through the windows of the courts. That's really something very painful for me, having been Kenya imekuwa na uhuru miaka 50 now, that we have such instances. And for a lot of people, the courts are usually the last resort. Wanaenda huko wakitarajia haki, iwe ni kesi ya ardhi, iwe ni kesi kuhusu mali, iwe ni kesi ya mawaji, whatever it is. But then when you're told that the land and environment courts cannot hear a total of about over 17,000 cases because of lack of resources, and that most of that, other than the Supreme Court, most of these courts are operating with less than 50% of the capacity, that really raises a lot of questions. And something else before I finish, one thing that the President did not talk about are the 41 judges who are waiting his appointment.
We will be coming there. And I think as we do that, there's some interesting things that the President also said, especially on the, Maraga said, especially on the shortage of judges. And I think it would be a very interesting place to go from where Jamila is talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's listen to that soundbite where the Chief Justice is talking about the judges' shortage.
With serious shortages. In fact, I could say, other than the Supreme Court, the rest of the courts are operating at about 50% of the establishment. In the Court of Appeal, for example, Your Excellency, we have about half the judges we are supposed to have. As a result of that, the appeals which are pending before them have risen as at the end of last year to 6,782. These are the cases which are holding huge sums of money.
Wow.
Yeah, and that is what is at the heart of this. I think the unresolved issues, Jamila, that you talked about. I mean, I think there was a lot that, wasn't also said. And the biggest fight, I think, for me, that these two individuals have right now is the appointment of those judges that the President declined to do last year, citing integrity issues with some of them. And I don't know if that was the part that was omitted today, but then again, he didn't address it. And, the CJ trying to, sort of skirt around that issue. And these cases are serious. Like you were saying, 50% capacity, the backlog as of June last year is over 341,000 cases. I mean, at the Supreme Court, there's 41.
That sounds like the population of some counties.
Right. If you take a look at the High Court, I think that's the one with the highest, at over 63,000 cases with a backlog. So you can take a look at some of these cases. They range from 3 to 5 years, 1 to 3 years as well. And the biggest backlog, by the way, is in Nairobi, incidentally, with the least in Malindi. And we're just talking about it. We've mentioned it here a number of times, that the courts of appeal in Mombasa,
in Malindi and
Nyeri,
and
Kisumu as well. Now at this point, this is what is at the heart of it, and I don't think that what happened today was resolved.
But I think what the problem,
Land and Environment Court cannot take cases
No.
This year up to next year?
Up to next year, yeah. People who are...
Can you imagine that? And I think one of the problems we have in this country is a situation where the president may have whatever reservations he has. First of all, why can't he appoint the ones that he doesn't have reservations about, and we are left arguing about the others? Or isn't that not possible? Secondly, no one has come out clearly to say, I have a problem with so-and-so because of ABCD, because that's how it really should be.
But even then, Joe, then that would be going against the procedure. I mean, we talk about, following court orders and following, the spirit and the letter of the law. We all know the process of appointing the judges and how that happens. The president himself has not one, but 2 representatives in the Judicial Service Commission. There are ways he could have raised, those issues through that process. It is not simply up to him to decide, I don't like this one and I can, this one. So, I mean, I think for both of these individuals, there's a problem. On one end, there's one saying, okay, there's not enough cash, but, I won't follow the procedure, but I like so-and-so and I don't like so-and-so and I have reservations regarding integrity.
Well, I think
and on the other hand, also, there's been a question about the judiciary and how they have run when funds were good before the budget cuts. I mean, so I think there's also issues. And I'd just like to point out that indeed, the CJ did admit to some of those issues, particularly with the one that is now being used, against the judiciary now. And that is the one on the case against the Akashas and how long that took. Perhaps we can listen to him on that today, because he seemed to be saying, okay, we're not perfect. Let's listen to CJ Maraga on the Akasha case. Then we can come back. All right, okay.
But actually, before we go to the Akasha case, Yvonne, I wanted to say on the back of the point you're making on the appointments, there is one issue that is quietly emerging, and that is questions about the quality of advice the president may be receiving from the Attorney General Kihara Kariuki. Because what is so difficult about walking the path of being very clear on what you mean by these non-appointments? You can actually go and state clearly that all the 41 judges have integrity issues, and so I'm not going to appoint them. And or specifically go to what Joe was talking about, which of these 41 have questionable
and then we can have that conversation as a country.
And then we can have that conversation.
And go through the tribunal process.
The Attorney General should be very careful, because this will start reflecting negatively on him. He is the Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya. And so the quality of his advice must reflect the nation. He is not a personal counsel of the president. He is the Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya. And so this is an issue he must take an interest in.
And by the way, Linus, he sits in the JSC.
He sits in the JSC. Yeah. So if there are specific judges that you have a question or a problem with, make it known.
And can I just add on that one of the judges? So the president has issues with them being in the Court of Appeal, but they currently continue to serve, at least for a good number of them.
Actually,
there are others
10 out of 11.
Right. There's one other who's from outside the judiciary, but there are these others. So if he's saying he has problems or issues with their integrity, but they're still serving as judges now in their current capacity, so what does that say?
Or
so
I think integrity issues that are specific to the Court of Appeal, for example.
But they haven't yet served on the Court of Appeal.
I mean, I'm just...
not even that. Not even that. You see, okay, there's something that you're saying about some omitted parts of that speech. Yes, one of the omitted parts of that speech, I can confirm, was on the appointment of judges. And what was contained in the previous text, that the president will not appoint anyone who has integrity issues. Maybe he has a point. Let's even assume he has a point. But as you say, if 10 out of the 11 nominees for Court of Appeal appointment are currently serving at the High Court, then does it mean that it is okay to have High Court judges with integrity questions at the High Court, but not at the Court of Appeal? Maybe that's a fundamental question. But maybe what he also looks at is the process of removal of a judge who has integrity questions. So maybe you also don't want to transfer the High Court problem to the Court of Appeal. But as Lina says, probably the president will need to come out clearly and say, so, and then specifically state, because
that would mean that there should have been a tribunal
by now.
Right. When we speak about now judges and their numbers and all that and cases, one of the issues that came out today, and I think we listened to the soundbite, was on corruption. And I think he said that he has set aside 10 magistrates who kazi yao tu ni kusikiza hizo cases za corruption, but wako na challenges pia wao in terms of now the number of defendants ambao wanashtakiwa.
We have that bite. There's that bite on on Maraga, on the fight against corruption, and the process so far?
I believe the executive and its ministries, departments and agencies have undertaken policy changes, investigations and prosecutions of the fraudulent and corrupt. They have faced individuals holding high office with no regard for political or ethnic affiliation. And I believe Kenyans have been enormously encouraged by these actions. And they have been waiting for quick convictions or acquittals in a timely manner.
I want to concede, and I have done that before, that there are times we have not been as quick as we are required to do. But we have challenges which some people, even, and I want the members of the public to understand this. Right now, my people are hearing some of the corruption cases that have come to Milimani. In fact, 10 of them, 10 magistrates are not doing anything else except hearing those cases. The problem we have here, Your Excellency, is this. You have a file with 10, 15, 20 accused persons. Some of those come with 2 lawyers. These are rich people. One witness, there is one case, I was sitting with the magistrates last week. One witness in one case has taken 30 days.
You can actually see and feel the frustration from the CJ. Consider the fact, excuse me, the Corruption Perception Index that was released today by Transparency International shows that between last year and this year, we've improved by only 1 position. We were 28 last year, and we are now 27. But if you look at the trend since 2012, we've barely moved. We've been 25, 27, 28. We've not gone anywhere as far as an improvement in terms of corruption. Considering the fact that now we have all these efforts being put in to try and curb corruption, the president speaking about it, and kila mara kizungumza anakasirika kuhusu corruption and all that. But what does that tell you maybe about the efforts that are being put? Considering the fact that ukiangalia mataifa kama Rwanda doing really, really well in this area, and they're at 53 points.
But Jamila,
the more points you have...
What do you expect? This is a perception index. It doesn't matter what you're doing, as long as people don't think that it is going in the right direction, it's having the right impact, it doesn't matter.
However,
and with all these arguments that we are seeing, who's going to believe that there's something going on? If the judiciary is blaming the executive is blaming the judiciary, everyone seems to be kicking the can down the road. No one really wants to hold this and say, this is what I'm doing. Yet each one of them really has very specific roles that have been assigned to them in the war on corruption. So this back and forth thing that is going on, who is going to be...
But it's also a fact that there are serious issues in the judiciary.
Right.
It's not true to say that every judge is okay, every magistrate is okay, things are moving on well in the judiciary. Actually, if it is about corruption, there are seriously corrupt judges and magistrates, like there are in parliament, like there are people in the executive, like in any other field. So much as the judiciary is being bashed, it has its fair share of the blame, just like any other agencies. And so maybe it's time for all those agencies to work together if the war against corruption is to be won. Otherwise, the corrupt totally enjoy the quarrels currently happening between the executive, parliament, and the judiciary.
Maybe they need building bridges initiative between the judiciary.
Perhaps there needs to be a bridge
or maybe a
between the president or maybe a break.
Yes.
Let's take that break now, and perhaps we'll hopefully see a handshake between the president and CJ Maraga. Who knows? Maybe they need bridges built between them.
Matches around the corner. Handshakes happen around the
corner.
Then they start having rallies.
And then they start having popularization rallies, which is exactly what we'll be talking about when we return. We'll be taking a look at the next showdown, or the next interesting point, that is Mombasa. They're going down to the coastal city of Mombasa. Wanasija, lakini kwa vishindo. Haya, we'll be discussing BBI when we come back.